Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here. This one I'm actually very excited about because we get to talk about Ys VIII Lacrimosa of Dana. Now this one is a special one to me because this was my first Ys game that I actually played, but this was also my first introduction to Falcom as well. Like, I know if you saw the video for Trails from Zero, that was the first one I did a review for, but Ys VIII was my first exposure to Falcom, and that's what kind of led down going the rabbit hole with their releases. But I say in the title of this that this is a true classic, and I know that can be subjective, and of course, nothing is perfect. But to me, Ys VIII is, for me, a classic in many ways. From the way it plays, to the journey that you take with it, and the story itself with the characters and all mechanics behind it. To me, everything about this is just super top-notch and well done. It was fun to go to the Isle of Seren and discover all of its mysteries. Now for this, as it says, this is the 8th title in the series. However, this takes place in a weird spot in the timeline. This takes place after Ys V, but before Ys VI. So the thing is, if you haven't played any of the other games of the franchise, you don't have to worry too much about that. It does make little nods here and there, so if you've played any of the previous ones, you will appreciate some of the things that happen in there. So, but the story itself, it stars Adol Christian. He's basically a man of adventure, and he's looking for his next great adventure along with his partner Dogi. The game starts off with you on a ship called the Lombardia, and you're just sailing along, going to find like I said, the next piece of adventure. However, the ship gets attacked by a creature in the sea. Adol tries to stop it, but unfortunately that doesn't work out very well, and then the ship gets crashed, and then he wakes up ashore on the, like I said, the island of Seren, and then the story goes from there. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but I will say the story is relatively simple for what it is. However, the thing that made it special was just the journey throughout the entire thing, finding the other crew members that were on the ship, discovering more of the island and its secrets, and then obviously things spiral into bigger things, and it just expands from there. But for me, the thing is, the journey from the start to the end is the thing that made that game for me, and all of the twists and stuff throughout. Like I said, even though some of it is relatively simple, like the story itself is simple, but the journey itself was well worth it, and I enjoyed finding almost every nook and cranny throughout that island. However, there is another side to it, because as it says in the title, the Lacrimosa of Dana, you do play as Dana as well, and you do explore part of history too, so you get to see the other side of things as well, and I thought those were again relatively well done. Might seem a little bit simple, and I feel like they could have been a bit longer, but I guess they didn't want it to overstay their welcome with it. But in terms of how it plays, this is a straight up action RPG. So you take a character and then you just press buttons and you do actions with it. It's not a turn-based RPG similar to The Legend of Heroes. For me personally, I like action RPGs more, but turn-based stuff can be very well done. But the action in this game just feels smooth and very well thought out and well paced in terms of the progression of like where you start and then where you end up throughout. However, level grinding is also a thing, but there is a natural sense of progression with it. It does feel relatively smooth. There are some parts where I found grinding was a bit necessary, but thankfully you have options when it comes to that. If you just want to go explore the island, for instance, or even doing things such as like raids or hunts, which I'll talk about those shortly. But in terms of how it plays, it's basically straightforward. You have attacks. They're relatively simple, and each character is split up into 3 types of attacks. Like, for example, Adol is a slash character. However, one of the first party members you meet, Laxia, she is one that focuses on Pierce. So That's another style. And then Sahad, another character you meet in the game, he is a strike character. So each enemy in the game, like, they have their weaknesses to one of these elements, and you want to take advantage of that, because if you strike an enemy's weakness, they will break, which can then, you know, drop rare items, but can also allow the other styles to attack. You can do it normally, so like for example, you could have a pierce attack go up against a slash, against say a slash one, but it won't do as much damage. But if you break that, then it will do more damage with it. The other thing is, like, you only have a maximum party of 3, but you get 6 total, I think, in the entire game. But you want to at least keep one of each, because if you keep one of each, your chances of getting rare items goes up. Whereas if you pair, say, 2 of the same, the damage, at least of that style, will go up by a little bit. So there is a balance if you want to say have 2 slashes and then say 1 pierce, but I personally suggest you keep one of each. It will just make things a little more balanced, and then you have enough variety when it comes to attack styles. But on top of like those, you also have access to skills, and skills are basically character special abilities. Now the thing with skills is that characters will learn them throughout the game, so it's not just strictly at level ups. There are certain points where you will see, hey, they've unlocked a new skill, and each skill can be leveled to a maximum of 3, and the higher the level goes, the more damage it can do. And I thought the skills were useful, but they're not infinite though. You have to recharge them, and you recharge them by just doing standard attacks or finding these special plants throughout the island that can restore part of your skill meter. But there's also another meter on top of that, which is your extra skill. Basically, extra skills are these super flashy attacks that can do, like, say, an area of effect of damage for it, and the damage output is high. Now you fill that up again just by attacking enemies, but there's also something you can get that can slowly have it build. Now each character only gets one of these extra skills, whereas with skills there's quite a bit to do, and there's a lot for them to level. And there's a lot for them to level up to at least the max level of level 3. But also each character can get their own different types of weapons. So for example, Adol uses a sword, Sahad uses a makeshift anchor, which I think is actually kind of neat. Hummel is the only one that has a gun, which makes for an interesting gameplay mechanic, I find, with it. However, you also have to be, it's not all just about attack, you also have to be able to defend yourself. There isn't a defense button in a normal sense, but you have these abilities called flash moves and flash guards. So basically, a flash move is you dodge just at the last second before an opponent attacks, and then the game will slow down. You will become invulnerable for a little bit, but that's pretty much all it does. Flash guard, though, is where things become a little more interesting, because it's the same idea. You have to block at the last possible second for it. Not only do you get invulnerability, however, all attacks that you will deal at that point can do critical damage for a short period of time. Now, one interesting thing, though, is you don't have to do just one or the other. Sometimes you'll get instances where you'll do a flash move, and then if you time it right, you can chain it into a flash guard. So there's kind of skills involved with it. I did find sometimes doing the timing for those moves a little bit off, where I felt like I should have been doing it, but I didn't do it. So it's a small gripe, but it's not something that completely breaks the game. If it didn't work entirely, that would be a different story altogether with it. Now, in terms of difficulties, you do have like four options available, with a 5th one available, I think, later on Inferno mode. And basically what they do, they just affect difficulty in terms of your damage you take, damage you dish out, experience gain, and on top of that, there's one interesting one for these little empty bottles. So this only applies to, I believe, Inferno difficulty, though, because you'll get these empty bottles, and then you can go and, you know, refill them with like healing or filling up your extra gauge or revives and stuff. But I believe on Inferno difficulty, when you use a bottle, it's gone. You have to craft another one at that point. So it adds another strategic layer to it, though. Now, this game originally came out on the Vita with a PS4 version that followed later on, and then every other version that's come out has been focused on that PS4 version. So basically, but the PS4 version did add things that weren't available on Vita. So some of these things include beast hunts. So remember I talked about beast raids before? So basically raids are when the beasts are going to attack your village and you have to defend it. It's a couple of waves, but you can also build things to defend the village, such as like barriers or a gong that can, if you hit it, then it causes breaks for the enemies. There's also bait, which you can then upgrade to cause poison damage, there's catapults, and then also the health of the gate so the beasts can't get in. However, hunts are the new thing, and that's instead of the enemies taking it to you, you take it to them. And how that works is there are these spots on the map where you have to set these torches, which can, weaken the enemies, because you can try and take them out without using the torches. However, it will take a lot longer to do, and you don't really do as much damage. So you want to set the torch, and then you can start dishing out the damages. And then you take out their nests, and then once all the nests are taken out, you then go up against the boss. And then once that's done, your hunt is complete. However, there's more to it than just that. They also added the ability, at least when you're playing in Dana section, in Dana sections, is that she now has different styles that she can switch to, and she has a total of 3 on top of like her default 1. Now, the second one I like that you get, which is Gratica, it's slow, it's heavy, but I just love the look of Dana when she's in this mode with it. They've also added the ability to rescue spirits when you're playing the Dana when you're playing in Dana's sections, and then they also added a sanctuary crypt, which almost seems like a bit of a challenge rooms in a sense, because it takes your abilities of these 3 styles that Dana can switch to. But there's more to it. It also expands upon the story. Again, I'm not going to say too much with it, but I did appreciate making it to the end of it and just getting that revelation. I thought that was awesome. On top of that, the other big thing that they added was night exploration. So it's basically, there's only like specific points for it, but you can explore these areas at nighttime and you can have certain objectives to complete. It's basically for side quests and stuff. Now, side quests, there's a lot of them here. It can keep you busy for a while, but you'll want to do the side quests because these tie kind of into the hunts and raids, because as you rescue people and get them back to Castaway Village, you'll want to do side quests, and you'll also want to raise their, like, say, affinity levels or something. It's basic, because what it does, it will grant you bonuses for the raids and hunts, such as, say, regenerating your health, give you unlimited use of your skills, or even, say, doing freeze damage, for instance. So you'll want to take care of the side quests. Keep in mind, though, that some of them are timed, or like there is a specific time limit you have to do. It's not like 5 minutes or anything like that, but it's as you progress the story, because there are points where you can get cut off. So if you're trying to raise the max level for all of the people you rescue, you'll want to keep that in mind when you're playing though. But also, just exploring the island is also the joy in and of itself. I think finishing this, I did pretty much everything that I could. I found every point on the map, every discovery point on the map, I found every treasure chest, I found the harvesting points, I managed to catch every fish, I also managed to make every dish, and also, what was the one that was crazy? I managed to find pretty much all the beasts, though, not almost all of them, and that took a little bit. The fishing one, I need to give a call for the fishing minigame, though. This is probably the most button-mashy fishing game I've played. It's still fun, though. I like it. There is one thing I have to point out, though. There is one fish in the game, which I think it's bugged. I could be wrong. If any of you know, please leave some feedback on it, but it's the very last one. It's the very last one, but the first time you do it, it's bugged and you can't do it correctly. And you have to do it the second time in order to catch it. Now, I don't know, I think it might be bugged, or if that's just how it is, I don't think that's good. I want to see it fixed at some point, but I doubt they're gonna do it. But if I'm doing something wrong, I know there's a piece of gear you can craft, though, to help with that. If you guys know anything more about that, let me know. I managed to get it, though. It took a little bit, but it was doable. But man, your hand will hurt after a little bit, just mashing the buttons and just like moving the thumbsticks and everything, so keep that in mind. Now, we're making this one specifically though because of the PS5 version that has just come out, so it includes everything that was in the PS4 version, but there are some additions or some slight changes that have been made for PlayStation 5. Some of the biggest things include, you know, improvements to texture quality and improvements to shadows, so the game does look a little bit better, and draw distance has been stretched out even further now compared to what you saw on PS4. Shadows are an interesting topic though for me, because like environmental shadows are of higher quality. However, I feel when shadows are on characters, they still seem kind of low quality and stuff. So I don't think that was improved, unfortunately. But texture quality, like I said, I feel like has been improved. Draw distance has been improved as well. And then the other big one for me, at least in terms of other improvements, is load times. The game feels snappier now on PlayStation 5 compared to, like, say, playing it on PlayStation 4. One tip, though, is make sure to shut off the tips, because they will definitely speed up load times. You can turn them on, but they will just lengthen them a little bit. However, you have access to all of the tips in your journal, so you can just check them there. In terms of other things that have been added for PlayStation 5, the game actually runs now at native 4K, and 60 FPS. I did actually test that, and it looks really nice. And, you know, I feel like they did a good job with it. A good job, at least, with that. One thing I couldn't test, though, is that the game also ships with a 120 FPS mode, which is played at 1080p. I don't have any way of testing that, unfortunately, right now, so I can't speak to it. The other thing that's interesting that they added for PlayStation 5 is mouse and keyboard support. So basically, you could play with the mouse and keyboard on your console if you want to do that. So, I don't know, if you want to, it's there. I haven't tested it either, so I can't speak to it, but I do think that's kind of a fun little addition that's included in here. In terms of other things, the game does include the DLC, pretty much the DLC that came out originally with it, but however, we're getting things that weren't available here, such as, you know, exclusive costumes that were from Japan, and even a little hug instructor as well. So you get all of these available right off the bat. You just have to go into the DLC tab and just accept the presents, and then you'll have access to that DLC. Overall, like, in terms of, you know, what they did for PS5, like, it's not anything crazy. It's not going to push the system to its limits or anything, but what's there is there. I do appreciate the ability of playing at a native 4K with 60 FPS or even 120 FPS option. I do appreciate those options being there for it. But yeah, like, at least technically, like, there isn't much to write home about with it. Technically, it's well done. Artistically, I do like how it looks, at least from an art side of things. But there's another side that we have to look at, and that's the music. This was my first exposure, again, to the Falcom team, and I don't know what kind of magic they have, but their soundtrack, at least for this, is just awesome. Here's some samples. Here's a few samples to listen to. I think I can safely say that this is one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard, possibly one of my all-time favorites too. And listening to and when playing through Trails from Zero, that just pretty much solidified it for me. Ys opened my eyes about how awesome it was. Zero solidified it though. But this soundtrack is just banger. It is so good. I can't wait to play any more of these games, more of Falcom stuff, and just listen to how their soundtracks are. But I would say overall, like, this game, it's truly something special. I loved my time with it. It's not perfect, like I said. There are some flaws with it. Like I said, the shadows, at least for when you see them portrayed on characters, is not the greatest. I feel like the lock-on system does freak out when you're trying to target, when it tries to auto-target something else, and pulling off the flash moves. I feel like has a little bit more stricter timing, or maybe I just suck at it, I don't know. But either way, like, this game is something special. I enjoyed the journey. I enjoyed meeting these characters, exploring all of Seiren, and seeing its secrets. This game is truly something special, and it is something I can look back on fondly and would love to play, and it's something I can just play over and over again. For me, this ranks up there with, say, the original Resident Evil 2, and even, say, Max Payne and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic as some of my all-time favorites. If you haven't played an Ys game before, this is a great starting point for it. Even if you don't play too many RPGs, or even action RPGs, this is still something I would highly recommend looking into. I feel like you will have a good time with it. Now, as I said, this game just came out on PlayStation 5. However, it's also available on the Switch, the PC, the PlayStation 4, and even the Vita. But if you're going to play this, like I said, go PS4 on, play any of the console versions. But if you get this PS5 version, I don't think you're going to be disappointed with it at all. With that, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to NIS America again for providing me with a copy of this game to play through and share with you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Please leave your feedback, in the comments below. Have you played this game before? What do you think about it? I also want to hear your feedback. I tried something a little bit different with this video, so hopefully you guys like it. But, I'll try to get some more stuff out for you as well in the future. So with that all being said, your support means a lot. Thank you for everything. Until next time, stay safe. I will see you in the next one.